Hey, love, you are listening to the No Boss of Me podcast, and I'm your host, Leanne Hanaway, money coach, wealth educator, and chartered professional accountant. This is a show that helps ambitious women grow and invest their money without shame, worry, or doubt so that they can live the life that they love. Every week, we will be discussing investing to build wealth, navigating personal finance as women, and talking with women entrepreneurs and change makers who are leaving their mark on our world. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm super excited about this episode because we are going to be talking about a tool that will help you to grow wealth. And you know me, that is what I am all about. And this common investing tool, we've probably heard a lot about it, but it is often used incorrectly. So today we are going to be setting the record straight. Using this investment tool with the right strategy can set you on the path to having an amazing seven-figure portfolio that you can use to retire early. You can use it to retire well. You could use it to really start a legacy. And that's what we need our money to do for us. So the tool that I'm talking about is called the tax-free savings account. You've probably often heard it abbreviated TFSA. TFSA. It's a really popular savings tool. And I say the word savings because instead of using it for savings, it should really be the cornerstone of your investing strategy. And at the end of this podcast, I will really put you on to a simple strategy where you can grow a portfolio to near $1 million just by contributing to your TFSA and investing it. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the TFSA, again, that's the tax-free savings account. It is a registered account that allows you to earn investment income tax-free. And it's a really great option for everyone and anyone looking to invest for their future by using the stock market in order to produce returns. And I remind you, it's right there in the name, those first two letters, your returns are completely tax-free. So I'll get into this episode because we're going to be discussing the basics of the TFSA, like how you can contribute to it, how you can invest with it, and how you can withdraw from it. We will also discuss how you can use the TFSA and its various investment options to help you reach your financial goals, with goal number one being retirement and retiring well, putting an end to your working life. So what is the TFSA? Like I said off the top, the tax-free savings account is a type of registered account offered in Canada that allows you to earn investment income tax-free. This might have different names in different countries, like the Roth IRA in the US, but I'm specifically going to be talking about here the TFSA and its main benefit, which you'll probably get really annoyed with me saying this over and over again. It's that the TFSA allows you not to pay taxes on any investment income earned within the account. That's things like interest, that's things like dividends, and things like capital gains. Absolutely no taxes on the investment income earned coming out of these accounts. So each year, CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, communicates with us what the TFSA contribution limit is. So this is the maximum that you can contribute to this registered account in any given year. And you earn TFSA contribution room by adding up all of these annual limits and any unused room that you have from previous years. So even if you don't use your entire contribution room in a given year, you can just carry forward it to future years and contribute more in later years. So for example, our contribution limit for the current year in 2023 is $6,500. Say you can only manage to contribute $4,000 this year. You'll have $2,500 in unused contribution room that you can carry forward to future years. So again, your total contribution room is the sum of your annual limits and your unused contribution rooms from prior years. Your contribution room begins the year you turn 18. And because the TFSA was first introduced in 2009, if you were 18 or older in 2009 and you haven't previously put $1 into your TFSA, your contribution room for 2023 would be $88,000. So you could put up to $88,000 into this TFSA and invest it, and it would grow tax-free, and that money you could pull out completely tax-free and use it completely tax-free. Now, this is because the money that you put into your TFSA has already been taxed. So this is not like the RSP, which is the Registered Retirement Savings Plan. It's not like that. In this case, you do not get a tax break by contributing to your TFSA. But again, those first two letters, tax-free, is what I really want you to concentrate on. It's when you withdraw those assets, none of the growth on your investments is taxed in any way, shape, or form. No tax. Nada. Zilch. None. And this is the greatest and often most overlooked part of the TFSA, is that once you've contributed to it, you can invest it, and as much as you let it grow, you can take out that money out when you're ready, completely tax-free. No tax. Nada. Zilch. Nothing at all. Nil. All of the growth in your money from your investments would usually be taxable if it was in a non-registered account. Or if it was in your RSP, when you take it out, you would have to pay tax at that time. But income that grows within your TFSA, again, is completely tax-free. And I think this is often the beauty that is missing when we really think about the power of this account. So I really want to underline these words again. And it's those first two words, tax-free. And we really need to emphasize these words because often when we hear the word tax-free savings account, it's actually the latter letters that are getting talked about a lot, which is savings account. I really wish the government had not called it a TFSA, tax-free savings account. They really should have called it a tax-free investment account to really help us realize how we can be using the TFSA as an investing vehicle. It's actually really underused as an investment vehicle. And oftentimes when I hear people talk about the TFSA, they're using it as a savings account. They're using it for short-term savings. They're using it for things like GICs or high yield savings account. And the benefit that you will earn by just saving on 3%, if you're lucky, or maybe even, back in the days when inflation wasn't crazy, 1%, that's not what you want to save this tax-free benefit on. You want to save it on the power that you can get from returns on dividends, returns on capital gains, as well as things like interest. Why not, instead of saving 1 to 3% growth in your portfolio, you can save 8, 9, 10%, or even more if you wanted to be aggressive. Now, I'm not suggesting that, but what I am saying is that there is a core problem with the name of TFSA. It throws us off. It really does us a disservice. Much like the RSP, which is, again, the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, you would not dream of using your RRSP as a simple savings account. You're going to be in there investing. You're going to be in there thinking about what ETFs, what stocks do I need to put in there. I want you to apply that same mentality to the TFSA. Do not be using your TFSA as a savings account, I'm saving for travel in 2 years' time. I'm saving for even a down payment on a house, I would argue, is not to be used for your TFSA, depending on how far down the window it is. But at the same time, I really think that your RSP and your TFSA It's used for investing and for retirement investing. So, so crucial. But honestly, it's not just the name. It's never just the name. The problem in the TFSA account goes a lot farther than just its name, because chances are you were first introduced to the TFSA at your bank, right? You likely went in for that very rare time into your bank, and you were probably depositing some money. They saw, hopefully you had a good, healthy amount of money in there. Or maybe you didn't, because maybe there was a promotion to push opening a TFSA, and you were told, hey, looks like you're not getting a lot of interest on your checking account. And then the next comment was, why don't we open a TFSA for you? So they were kind of half right. You should definitely earn more money on your cash. So after accounting for maybe stuff that you're putting in your emergency savings, but anything above and that, you should definitely be putting aside and not keeping in your checking account. You should do this by investing. You should not do this via a savings account and designating your savings account as a TFSA. Again, I really don't want you saving 1% on a savings account, or even 3%. I think probably by now 4% on a high yield savings account. Wouldn't it be better to save 8, 9, 10, 11% on investing in the stock market and investing in things like ETFs, exchange traded funds, which, if you model the market, have returned over a 10-year period just under 10%? I know you've heard me talk about the benefits of compounding, and it's really, really better to use that tax-freeness, that tax-free goodness that you get from a TFSA by investing in the stock market for the long term. Compounding really pays off if you do it for the long term, and the added benefit of being able to withdraw that money tax-free is a benefit that I think we need to really lay into and we really need to benefit from. So really that TFSA, the TF, we need to lean into and really use it as an investing account. Replace that S with an I and call it an investment account. Before we get into what you can put into your TFSA, let's talk a little bit about the contributions. Because it's not just the misconception that you can only open a TFSA with your bank. And again, these things are not your fault. It's the way it's marketed. It's the way they come at us from a consumer point of view. But it's not just your bank that you need to open up a TFSA. This is completely untrue. You can actually open up your TFSA with all kinds of financial institutions. So yes, that's banks, but it's also investment companies. It's also insurance companies, trust companies, and one of my favorites, credit unions. You can open up a TFSA with a robo-advisor to invest, or that investment company that's a brokerage if you want to do your own investing and pick your own stocks and ETFs. And again, the benefit of this is the money that you take out there will grow and you'll be able to take it out completely tax-free. And here's another misconception about the TFSA. Some people think you can only have one TFSA, where the truth is you can have more than one. The only concern here is you don't want to go over your contribution room. So if you have a present TFSA with one investment company and you want to have another one at another investment company, you're totally free to do that. And again, the only thing you want to make sure is that you do not want to over contribute to your TFSA. So if you've maxed all your TFSA room and you've put in $1 extra, you will be subject to tax of 1% for every month that the over contribution room remains in your account. So if you do have more than one TFSA, or you want to switch it up and think about what you might have done in the past because you might have been withdrawing from your TFSA, you can check with your financial institution, or better yet, log into your My Account on CRA's website and you can check. Normally, it will give you your contribution room from the year before. And if you've done anything in 2023 or in the current year, you might have to check that manually by looking to see again what you might have contributed with your financial institution, what you might have withdrawn, in order to come up with what is your contribution room within the year. Now, again, you do want to carefully monitor this, and it is something that you can monitor because you're really going to want to avoid any penalties from over contributing to your TFSA. If you haven't contributed this year and you might already have an existing TFSA with the bank, what you can do is just open up a new TFSA and contribute the maximum this year of $6,500. That's about $542 a month, and I think it's like $125 a week. So really break that down. If you haven't contributed yet to your TFSA this year, you at least know you have $6,500 in room to contribute this year. And we could talk a little bit later about how you might want to transfer some of your existing TFSAs into another TFSAs and doing that in the best way possible. When it comes to the contribution limit, next year's won't really be announced until it's a part of the federal budget announcement, which usually comes late in the year. Generally, is a rule that your contribution limit for each year takes into account inflation, as well as any other changes in the economy to determine how much you can put in. So last year, our contribution room was $6,000. It's gone up for another $500 to $6,500. That contribution room is added to your total available limit. And again, if you were born before 1991 and you haven't previously contributed to your TFSA, your contribution room in 2023 would be $88,000. So pretty amazing. And if you were born after 1991, you're probably listening to this in at least 1.25 or higher speed because you were a constant multitasker. And you're asking yourself, why can't you just whittle this down into a less than 90-second TikTok? One of the key benefits of the TFSA, again, is that your investment gains you earn within the account do not affect your contribution room. So no matter how much your investments grow to, you can still contribute the full amount of the annual contribution limit in every year, as well as any unused contribution room from previous years. So it's pretty amazing. Let me again give you an example of this using numbers. So say you've contributed to your TFSA and your TFSA grows to $10,000. We contributed, $6,500 within our room, and over the next couple of years, it grows to $10,000. Amazing. When you look at the $10,000 compared to what you can contribute in the next year, it gets added on. So you can also, even though there's already $10,000 in your account, you can contribute $6,500 regardless of the value of your TFSA. So this is where you can truly see that these balances can grow really, really big. You are not restricted by what the current value is in your TFSA. You are always earning that subsequent year's room when the clock hits January 1. Now, any individual who is a non-resident of Canada, you want to make sure that you have a valid SIN number, social insurance number. You are 18 years of age or older. You can also open a TFSA. So it's just that you have to be a resident of Canada when you actually contribute to this TFSA. So if you spend some time outside of Canada, make sure that when you're actually contributing to your TFSA, you're doing it when you are deemed to be a resident of Canada. Because again, there are taxes. You are subject to a 1% tax for each month that contribution when you were non-resident was in your account. So if you're planning on not living in Canada for a while, it's a good idea to just leave your TFSA alone and don't continue to contribute to it. And lastly, one of the other benefits when you think about contributing to the TFSA, it's because it is a after-tax account. So you're contributing money that you've already earned either through employment or maybe through other investments, or you have rental properties or anything else that you might be doing to create and make money. you can invest that not only in your own TFSA, but you can use it as a strategy to contribute to your family's TFSA. In the example of a partner or a spouse who has a lower income and has not used all their contribution room, you can actually just contribute to their TFSA and take full advantage of their unused contribution room and really hit that, compounding effect of both the amount you're contributing, what you're investing in, and letting time do its magic to create compounding. It's not just true of, partner and spousal contributions. You could do this with anyone's TFSA. As long as they have their own TFSA, which means they have to have reached the age of majority, of 18 years old, they have to have contribution room, and they have to be a resident of Canada. You can give them your already tax dollars, and they can use that to contribute to their TFSAs. So it's kind of magic in a way where it's not true income splitting, but in a way it has the potential for accumulated growth within a family when it comes to growing your wealth. Now, I want you to think about what are the investments that you can hold in your TFSA. And if you know about RSPs, it's essentially the same thing. There are many types of investments that you can put in an RSP that you could also put into a TFSA. So these things include stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, cash, and GICs, guaranteed investment certificates. But again, let's put in the investments that are likely to have more positive long-term returns that you get the benefit of compounding and the benefit of withdrawing this money completely tax-free. To really get the benefit of compounding, you really want to think long-term investing. In fact, you cannot use your TFSA for doing things like day trading or swing trading, anything that is really more about making short-term spreads on your TFSA. They don't like that. CRA will consider you really carrying on a business within your TFSA and trying to shelter the tax gains from that, and they will tax it. That's just something to be cognizant of. And another reason why I really want you to use your TFSA for retirement and any long-term financial goals that you have. So yes, you can have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds in your TFSA. That's where you're going to get your most bang for buck when it comes to compounding and growing your TFSA. Now, what about withdrawals? When it comes to withdrawals, let's use the example of you contributing the max amount of your TFSA for every year since its inception, and your total contribution room is $88,000. If your TFSA has grown to $100,000, you can basically withdraw the entire $100,000 without losing any contribution room. As long as you want to put back in that $100,000, you do that on January 1. So in the following year, you can put that whole $100,000 back into your TFSA, plus the annual contribution limit of that year. You can also add to that account. So say it's another $6,500, you can put back in $106,500. Note that that's not the $88,000 that you originally contributed that grew to $100,000. It's actually the amount that you withdrew. And again, the big thing you want to pay attention to is the timing of those withdrawals. If you make a withdrawal in 1 year, you can recontribute the same amount in the following year in addition to the annual contribution limit in that year. So again, pretty powerful as long as you make important note of waiting until the next calendar year to recontribute that amount. Now, if you recontribute in the same calendar year, it will count as an over-contribution. And remember, we talked about those penalties, 1% for each month of over-contribution. And that's not something we want because it will really drain the power of how big this account can grow. So when it comes to withdrawals from your TFSA, it's really important to understand how withdrawal room works and make sure that you don't ever over-contribute, which could result in penalties and taxes. Now you're probably thinking, okay, I probably want to consider where I have my money in TFSAs, and I might want to consolidate it all and either put it with a robo advisor or put it with a brokerage, as long as I'm now going to be using that money to invest. So you might be thinking, how do I transfer money from one TFSA at one financial institution to another financial institution? And the process is pretty simple. Depending on what institution you're working with, it could be a matter of just opening up a new TFSA with a new financial institution that you want to be where your TFSA is housed, and provide them with your information about your existing TFSA account, things like the account number, the name, and where it's currently held. And a lot of times they will take care of the transfer process for you. Once they have all that information, it's really the new financial institution will initiate the transfer completely on your behalf. It could usually take a few days to a few weeks to complete. What's important to note is that if it's a transfer, and very specifically a transfer, it won't affect any of your contribution room. It's really just going from one account at one company to another account on another company. Now, what you don't want to do is, say you have money at Bank A and you want to transfer it to robo-advisor B. What you don't want to do is withdraw the money from one bank account and then contribute it to the other one, because that will actually impact your contribution room. That action is considered two separate actions and not a transfer at all. This can result, again, in tax implications. It could also contribute to a loss of contribution room. So it's really best to just transfer from one TFSA at one financial institution to the other, and really working with an institution, which all of them should really be easy to do, to transfer that money. They really handle it in the background for you. It's usually generally very smooth and hassle-free. And when you do this, the financial institution are generally going to ask you for one of two options to transfer your money. You can do an in-kind transfer or a cash transfer. So an in-kind transfer involves transferring from, say, investment company A to investment company B. It would basically do this without selling your investments. So looking at the underlying basket that you have at Bank A, if it's in stocks A, B, and C, and you want to go to financial institution B, if you were to transfer in kind, it would actually transfer stock A, B, and C to investment company B, and showing up in that account would be stock A, B, and C. So it's basically a good option that won't trigger any sales. It's a pure transfer, so it won't trigger any capital gains or losses. You're simply just moving assets from one account to another. And it's only a really good idea if you intend to keep the same investments that you had in investment company A as in investment company B. Now, if you don't want to hold the same investments, or even perhaps your investment company B that's going to hold your new TFSA doesn't offer the investments that you had in investment company A, you might want to do a transfer, a cash transfer. So what that would entail is all of the investments in investment company A would be sold, and then they would take that cash and transfer the cash into TFSA B. Again, there's no tax consequences because you are doing a transfer within your TFSA, but you might be actually crystallizing any losses. It's just something where if you plan to have different assets in investment company A than you have in your TFSA and investment company B, it's just something to consider how you go about making that transfer. And again, the key is transfer. You do not want to withdraw and recontribute. You want to transfer. So when it comes to transferring your TFSA from one institution to another, just really consider if you want to do an in-kind transfer or cash transfer, and think about what is the most right option for you. Consideration should be whether you want to keep the same investments or whether you want to switch to different investments. Now, we've talked about so much when it comes to building your muscle around using the TFSA and why it is so important that we use it as an investing account and not a savings account. And you might have heard me say a couple times that I really think that you should use this as a retirement vehicle. The reason why I say this is, again, you get so much benefits of growing your money tax-free over a long period of time. And it's a different benefit than when you get from the RRSP. In the RRSP, you are just deferring tax. You are not going tax-free. You are completely deferring. And we don't know where tax rates are going to land in 20, 30, 40 years. You might be at a level where you have done so well and you've invested so well, your career has taken off, your business has taken off, that you could end up being at the same tax bracket that you contributed to as when you retire, or you could be at an even higher retirement bracket. Or perhaps maybe you are getting a little bit started late in the game. It's never too late to start, but you might not have built a significant portfolio that you could be at the same tax bracket or a lower tax bracket in retirement. Under all these scenarios, the TFSA still wins. And let's go through each of these scenarios in turn. Let's say you end up at a lower tax bracket, or you're currently at a low tax bracket and you continue to be at a low tax bracket when you retire. With the TFSA, the money that you put in there, remember, it's already been taxed and it gets withdrawn tax-free. If you're able to grow that TFSA to a large balance, you will not have the impact of the value of that TFSA impact any government benefits that you might have. So you could probably still qualify for government benefits, knock on wood that they're still there when it comes to retirement, and then also withdraw from your TFSA to supplement your income. Again, it's completely tax-free, so the government doesn't track how much money you withdraw from it and include it in your income. Now, that's different from in the RRSP. If you're in a high tax bracket when you retire, the money that you withdraw here is not taxed at all, which is a really great benefit because you can use that money for a whole host of different reasons. You could even use that money if you want to pass it on. It's not money that is taxed. So if you're able to grow your TFSA, you're at a high tax bracket, you continue to be at a high tax bracket, what the value is of your TFSA will not impact you paying any additional tax. So again, it's a lovely benefit. And if you're somewhere in the middle, not quite a low, not quite a high tax bracket, you get the best of both worlds. You aren't impacted by government benefits. And if you want to supplement your income in retirement, you're also not taxed on that. It will not show up on your income tax return. So again, it's a really, really, really powerful tool. And I really want to stress, let's use our TFSA strictly for investment. So now that I've convinced you that you need to use the TFSA for retirement, let's look at your TFSA wealth retirement building plan. And we can just start this year with maxing out. So $6,500 in 2023 is your allowed annual contribution limit. Now remember, that could be a lot larger if you haven't contributed or if you've withdrew in previous years. So it's good to check. But let's just assume you have a $6,500 in available room in your TFSA. Now, if you want to break that down to a monthly basis, that's contributing $542 a month into this TFSA. And assuming that it grows at 8%, that TFSA, if you contribute $6,500 every year, finding that $542 every month, you will have over $800,000 in your TFSA that you can use completely tax-free in retirement. You could probably still qualify for government benefits. With that contribution, you probably would have only put in just under $200,000 which would have grown to over 800,000. I've used a term of 30 years. And this is why using the TFSA as an investment vehicle is so important. We don't really want to be using it for short-term or even medium-term investments. We want to think about a longer time horizon when we're using TFSAs to their maximum benefit for you to build wealth. And I often say the first area where you want to build wealth is in that retirement fund. So let's do it tax-free using the tax-free savings account, which in your mind now should be called the tax-free investment account. We talked about a lot of things today, and I just really want to wrap up 5 items that we talked about that are the misconceptions of the TFSA. The first one is really acknowledging that inflation right now is not going to let up anytime soon. So it's really critical that we take advantage of higher interest rates and the tax-free compound growth that you can get in a TFSA. We talked about not using the TFSA just to save on low interest savings accounts, saving accounts that are earning maybe 2%, maybe even 4%. That's not what we want to use the TFSA for, because again, that's often for short-term returns. We want to be using the power of the TFSA for long-term returns, not putting our TFSAs in cash. We could be earning in the stock market returns of 8 to 10% over a 15, 25, 35, or even more period, depending on where you are. We talked about how we don't necessarily want to be at a bank that doesn't offer us various investments for our TFSA. Our TFSA does not need to be in cash. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, these are the types of assets that have higher returns than your typical savings account. We also talked about number 4 here, that you can transfer between your TFSA accounts. You don't have to be stuck right now if you are invested in cash, and really the majority of Canadians have a lot of their TFSAs in cash. Instead, you can transfer that amount from one TFSA to another at a different financial institution. It typically just involves a little bit of paperwork and really specifying whether you want to transfer it in cash or transfer it in kind. And the last kind of misconception that I want you to think about is that it doesn't take too much to start the investing journey in your TFSA today. You can start with a robo-advisor in as little as 15 minutes just by opening up an account, and they will actually select the investments for you and start putting your money to work right away. And if you are that DIY investor and you already know what ETFs, what target date funds, what index funds, what even maybe stocks or bonds you want to put that TFSA investments in, why not get started today? This has been another episode of the No Boss of Me podcast. I'm Leanne Hanaway, money coach, wealth educator, and chartered professional accountant. If you have feedback on today's episode, don't forget to rate us and review us wherever you get your podcast. You can also DM us on Instagram at nobossofme. We'd love to hear from you. Please join us again next time for more on investing to build wealth, navigating personal finance, and talking to women entrepreneurs who are changing our world with confidence. Thanks for listening.